Hey guys, Loadout here, and today I wanted to show you a near invincible, hard-hitting, and excellent add-clear loadout I've been cooking up, or I suppose thawing out. It is the one and only Stasis-focused Prismatic Hunter build I will be using over the course of this season. This is a mostly sit back and relax type of class, harnessing Wicked Implement and Hunter's new exotic helmet. Think of it like Season of the Wishes Polaris Lance build with a quicker startup and greater effect. Additionally, this build allows you to gain Devour, Invisibility, and Frost Armor fairly easily, allowing for some insane survivability. As usual, the first chapter of this video is dedicated to a quick list and explanation of the build for those of you who just want to copy and try it. If you want to hear the in-depth explanation of each piece and part of this build, that'll be on chapter 2 and beyond. Towards the end, I'll also include a gameplay guide if you are a bit confused on how exactly to play the build. Starting with our abilities, we have Golden Gun Marksman for its damage. Acrobat's dodge will help us get Radiant, giving us a 25% damage bonus. It also gives us anti-barrier rounds. Yes, anti-barrier scout does not work with Wicked Implement. It is very disappointing. Withering Blade is a central focus of this loadout, so make sure to equip that. Finally, magnetic grenades allow us to easily activate certain buffs and debuffs. The aspects of our class will be Stylish Executioner and Gunpowder Gamble. Stylish Executioner grants near constant invisibility, while Gunpowder Gamble can easily take out large crowds and is constantly refreshing. This leaves us with 5 fragment slots for Facet of Devotion, Courage, Balance, Ruin, and Dominance. I'll go into more detail about these later, but each serves as a way to greatly enhance our damage output, survivability, or ability spam. The exotic armor should be Mask of Fealty, which is a new exotic hunter helmet, greatly buffing our Withering Blade melee to extraordinary levels. It also looks like an Oni mask, which is pretty neat. This leads us to our exotic weapon, Wicked Implement. This is a stasis scout rifle that does everything stasis, which will synergize perfectly with the rest of the loadout. Our heavy weapon should be a grenade launcher, as the artifact greatly buffs their damage output. Technically, the best grenade launcher is VS Chill Inhibitor from Vesper's Host, with Envious Arsenal and Bane Switch, but it is incredibly new, so in the meantime, here's some other good options. Edge Transit, Cataphract GL3, Wicked Sister, or Bittersweet. All of these grenade launchers come with great DPS options, but I feel that Edge Transit and Bittersweet are the best. These two are able to match with your energy slot special weapon for surges. For your special weapon, try to match it with elements in your heavy slot. If not, just use whatever your favorite is, it really doesn't matter at that point. The episode 2 Revenant artifact is the make or break of this loadout, so here's what to use on it. In column 2, make sure to use one with Frost and Killing Breeze. Column 3 has a lot of good choices, specifically Wind Chill, Crystalline Converter, and Power from Pain. The 4th column has one of the best add clear perks in the form of Hail the Storm, and one of the best DPS artifacts in the form of Concussive Reload. The final column consists of 2 different sets of artifacts that should be swapped when encountering DPS or add clear encounters. If the main draw is a simple combatants, go for Brain Freeze and Served Cold. For a DPS focused encounter, replace Served Cold with Kinetic Impacts. As usual, there are too many armor mods for a quick overview, so here's a full list of the armor mod. While I give you some time to copy these mods, I suggest hitting the like and subscribe buttons. This will help you stay up to date with some of the best weapons, gear, and loadouts. Onto the longer and more in-depth explanation, starting with the stasis capabilities of our loadout. Mask of Fealty is a new hunter exotic helmet, the main draw of which is shattering stasis crystals or frozen enemies with your Withering Blade. Doing this releases a spread of more Withering Blades, which can go on to do the same thing and potentially set off a chain reaction. It is worth noting that these are not the same as the base Withering Blade, so I'm going to call these mini Ws to explain the exotic more clearly. Mini Ws do not bounce and will disappear when hitting the environment or an enemy. Withering Blade and mini Ws will both spawn a small stasis crystal when hitting a target or the environment. Although Withering Blade does not spawn in a stasis crystal on every bounce, there seems to be a small cooldown making it only spawn about 2 stasis crystals per throw. Something even better about this is every time a stasis crystal spawns when you hit a target, you instantly freeze that target. Additionally, Withering Blade can now regenerate itself up to about 30% at 10% per bounce. Balance. Many Ws do not have this effect. Now keep in mind we are using a prismatic subclass with access to Transcendence. Transcendence fully recharges our melee abilities and greatly increases their recharge rates, meaning we can throw 4 back-to-back Withering Blades and many more while Transcendent. Overall, this exotic makes a ton of stasis crystals and frozen enemies, which translates directly into Ad Clear and directly into ability energy through our exotic weapon, Wicked Implement. This scout rifle is a stasis 180 RPM monster that synergizes with everything stasis. Starting with its intrinsic trait, Creeping Attrition activates after 3 rapid stasis precision hits, making each precision hit thereafter apply 40 slow stacks to targets. Tithing Harvest allows this weapon to spawn stasis shards on precision final blows and destroying stasis crystals. This stasis shard will travel through walls from any distance and refill your magazine. The only catch is the gun produces them on a small cooldown. I must mention that the trait itself states Creeping Attrition must be active for the trait to work, but this is not true. I do not know if this is a glitch or simply an oversight in the description of the perk. Finally, the catalyst of this weapon fills the final gap when it comes to stasis energy. It grants the weapon a headstone, allowing the weapon to spawn a stasis crystal on any precision final blow. Of course, this weapon can't get any better, right? Well, of course it can. The catalyst also overflows the magazine as you collect stasis shards. Now onto the final set of stasis energy, artifact mods. Starting off with Wind Chill, since we are using Wicked Implement, every 5 precision hits will gain a stack of frost armor. This is a pretty easy task for a scout rifle that slows enemies. Each stack of frost armor grants a 4.5% damage reduction for 10 seconds, up to 5 stacks at 22.5% damage reduction. Additionally, if you have the boost for this mod, any enemy slowed also has a chance to drop a stasis shard if you defeat them with a stasis weapon. One with Frost synergizes with Wind Chill perfectly by granting stability and reload for your stasis weapons while we have frost armor. While a minor boost, this is a very easy to get one, so you may as well. Hail the Storm amplifies our crowd control. Any stasis crystal we destroy will spawn 5 seeker projectiles that damage and slow targets. You already spawn in a ton of stasis crystals, and since this is a stasis season, so will your teammates. This has to be my favorite artifact mod, but what makes it overpowered is its boost. Both stasis crystal and frozen enemy shatters deal 12.5% increased damage. The amount of stasis crystals you spawn in is only enhanced by Crystalline Converter. Collect stasis shards to charge this mod, allowing you to spawn in up to 3 stasis crystals when you hit an enemy with a charged stasis melee. Keep in mind, Mask of Fealty can already spawn at least 2 stasis crystals with a single Withering Blade for up melee. The boost for this is essentially Reaper for stasis shards. Use your class ability, then defeat an enemy with a stasis weapon to spawn a stasis shard. In the final column, Brain Freeze stands as a really good artifact mod. Any frozen enemy creates a small, slowing field around them. Freeze any enemy near a choke point and suddenly you have a conga line of stasis debuffs. Need I say more? Also, in the final column is Severed Coal, which buffs stasis shards ability regeneration. In addition to their 12.5% melee regeneration rate, they also regenerate about 12.5% of your class ability. This is your last stasis focused artifact mod, but the rest are still important. For instance, there is a second artifact mod focused around regenerating your class ability. Killing Breeze makes it a breeze. Rapid weapon final blows increase your mobility. Since we are a hunter, this increases our class ability regeneration rate. This and previous artifact mod mean more Acrobat's dodge and therefore more radiant and damage. Something else you can do for extra damage is use Concussive Reload. Damaging a boss or champion will weaken them, or any enemy after breaking their shield. This lasts for about 20 seconds as well, leading to a long-lasting and easy to apply debuff. The boost even makes it so your stowed weapons automatically reload when you activate the mod. Weaken is also something that is needed for our final artifact mod, Power from Pain. This will grant Devour after rapidly eliminating 3 weakened enemies. Of course, Concussive Reload would be a bit inconsistent to activate with this, which is why it won't be the main way to activate it. Our Grenade ability will be. As for the boost of this artifact mod, it just spawns a Void Breach when you activate it. While these may be your general artifact mods, you will want to swap swap around the final column for maximum DPS. Conductive Cosmic Crystal causes arc and void abilities, as well as all weapons with Dark Ether Reaper to deal 5% increased damage to slowed and frozen enemies. 10% if you have the boost activated. This really only applies if you're using the grenade launcher Bittersweet or the, as of writing this, unreleased rocket launcher Heretic's Fervor. The other DPS focused artifact mod is Kinetic Impacts, which creates a shockwave when hitting an enemy 5 times with a heavy grenade launcher. This just deals a bit of extra damage, so you may as well. Onto the abilities of our loadout. Golden Gun Marksman is the highest damage super that we have access to on Prismatic Hunter. It generates orbs of power for our team on precision hits and deals increased damage for every precision hit you make while it's active. You can also over-penetrate with it, which can be helpful in some situations. It also benefits from Radiant, so a free 25% damage buff from a dodge. Acrobat's dodge is an easy choice for us. We won't be close enough to activate Gambler's dodge that often, and we generally don't need the quick reloads of Marksman's dodge. Radiant for you and your team is great though, 25% extra damage for all of your weapons, as well as anti-barrier rounds to deal with annoying shields. I hope you've been listening enough to equip the Withering Blade for your melee, magnetic grenades, simply because it's void and therefore works with Facet of Dominance. It is a sticky grenade and explodes twice, meaning it does have potential to hit multiple enemies if they are not in the initial explosion radius. Stylish Executioner is an easy choice for this loadout. Nearly every final blow causes us to go invisible. Wicked Implement will slow any defeated enemy. Withering Blade slows as well. Shattering Stasis Crystals will now cause slow due to Hail the Storm, and magnetic grenades will weaken. Since we aren't necessarily using any solar weapons, we have to rely on abilities and debuff damage. Final blows to activate Gunpowder Gambles. Withering Blade can get many final blows in a single throw, while shatter damage count towards debuff damage final blows. I would say scroll back in the video and count every time I said Stasis Crystal, but we'd be here all day. Keep in mind, it only takes 2 final blows of either method to charge your Gunpowder Gamble. These 2 aspects give us 5 fragment slots. Facet of Devotion gives us extra light transcendence energy on every final blow against darkness debuffed enemies. This is only about 1% per red bar, but every enemy you defeat usually has some form of stasis debuff, so it adds up over time. Facet of Courage grants 10% extra solar, arc, and void ability damage against any darkness debuffed enemies. This is essentially just a vorpal weapon for our golden gun. Just make sure to throw a Withering Blade at a boss before going in. Facet of Balance grants 10% melee or grenade energy when rapidly defeating 3 enemies with light or darkness damage respectively. This is really nice for our ability uptime. Facet of Dominance causes our magnetic grenades to weaken enemies. This in turn can activate the artifact mod Power from Pain and give us Devour as long as we weaken 3 enemies and defeat them. Facet of Ruin is the final and obvious pick for our facets. It not only buffs the size of our ignitions, aka our Gunpowder Gamble, but more importantly buffs our shatter damage and size. This applies to any frozen target or stasis crystal we destroy. I did mention Wicked Implement earlier for a kinetic slot weapon, but what about the rest? Let's start with our heavy weapon, preferably being VS Chill Inhibitor. It is from Vesper's Host and is a stasis rapid fire frame grenade launcher. This comes with Envious Arsenal and Bane Switch, making it one of the best heavy DPS weapons in the game. This is not to mention its ability to weaken thanks to Concussive Reload. For those of you who don't know, Envious Arsenal is a new trait that reloads the weapon when you deal damage with your other 2 weapons. Bane Switch is similar, but grants the weapon a 30% damage buff. For your special weapon, match your heavy weapon Surge, assuming you're not using VS Chill Inhibitor that is. If you are using that weapon, just use whatever your favorite is. Since it is new, I imagine many will be using the Bittersweet, so here's some good arc special weapon combos to run with that. My first pick is Indebted Kindness, the only arc rocket assisted frame sidearm, led from gold in the first column for ammo economy, and Volt Shot in the fourth for ad clear and elemental synergy. My second would be a shotgun of all things. Dead Grammar 4 has been my personal favorite this season. It is an arc lightweight frame that can come with my favorite third column trait Discord and either Volt Shot or Chain Reaction in the fourth. Ether is great for ad clear, but Volt Shot exchanges clunkiness for elemental synergy. Finally, we have our armor mods. But first, your base stats. stats. First, aim for 100 resilience. The less damage you take, the longer you'll survive. Next, aim for high strength. This loadout is based around Withering Blade, so the quicker it regenerates, the better off you'll be. Finally, I'd suggest aiming for mobility. This governs Hunter's dodge cooldowns, and for Acrobat dodge, that means you'll become radiant more often. For your helmet, equip the Stasis Siphon and 2 hands-on. Stasis Siphon will grant an orb of power for every 2 rapid final blows. Hands-on will grant a minimum of about 2% super energy for every melee kill, making your supercharge surprisingly fast. On your arms, use heavy-handed, impact induction, and focusing strike. Heavy-handed spawns an orb of power when you defeat an enemy with a charged melee ability. Impact induction grants grenade energy when dealing damage with a charged melee attack, while focusing strike does the same for your class ability. Your chest should have a Concussive Dampener, Void Resistance, and a Harmonic Resistance. All of these reduce the damage taken from area effect, void, and solar sources by 15%. For your legs, 3 weapon surges, 2 stasis, and 1 matching your special. This will increase wicked implements and your heavies damage by 17%, while increasing your specials by 10%. Finally, your cloak should have outreach, bomber, and time dilation. Outreach and bomber recharge your melee and grenade abilities by 12% respectively. Time dilation gives you 5 extra seconds on your armor charges. That's pretty much it for your loadout, but what about your gameplay? Well, just sit back and click on heads. Wicked Implement will do the freezing if you do the shooting. If you see a big group of enemies, start out with your magnetic grenade. This will get you Devour if you don't already. Otherwise, throw out your Withering Blades. Wait a little bit before throwing your second Withering Blade, and doing that kind of stuff will net you your Gunpowder Gamble. You can use that and just chunk it at pretty much any enemy. You'll get it back pretty much as soon as the cooldown is up, so don't worry about using it. Speaking of cooldowns, spam your Acrobat's dodge. If it's not on cooldown, you're wasting a 25% damage buff. If you see a champion, make sure to hit them with your grenade launcher. This will weaken them for more than long enough to take them out. This build can easily take care of all champion types as well. Slow for overload, freeze for unstoppable, and radiant from Acrobat's dodge for barrier. As for damage phases or encounters, make sure to start out with a Withering Blade for the stasis debuff and hit it with the VS chill inhibitor shot for weaken. From there, use your golden gun for some big damage numbers, follow it up with a shot of your primary, then secondary, then fire a magazine of your VS chill inhibitor. Repeat the process every time you need to reload. Due to Envious Arsenal, the weapon will automatically reload and reactivate Bane Switch, making for easy damage phases. That's pretty much the video. Thanks for sticking around till the end. If you want to see more videos going over Destiny 2 builds, subscribe to see some more. Don't forget to check out the channel too if you want to see other builds and Destiny related content. I have a playlist of my previous builds in the description below as well if you want to see them right now. I'll be posting more stasis centric loadout soon, so expect to see those sometime in this next week. It's been Leftward Al, have a good one, and goodbye.